Good morning, common sensors. It's Paul Cox here with the Littlewood and Cox show. Thanks very much to Mike. What a fantastic show that was this morning. Do you know what? I listened to that from 7 all the way in. I drive all the way up to London. I watch it, and when I get in here, I watch it too. Nothing like learning from the maestro, is there? Thank you very much to Mike Graham for everything, basically, and for all his viewers for coming across. You are very welcome. Please do stay. We have a magnificent show for you this morning. Let me tell you what guests we've got on. First things first, my presenter buddy will be Lewis Schaefer. He's here from 11 a.m. Now, the reason I laugh is because the presenter buddy's usually someone appointed to help me. I don't believe at any point during that hour Lewis will help me, but you will be entertained by him. We've also got Sophie Corcoran and Russell Quirk. Sophie's going to be talking about the anti-white policy of GCHQ. Quirkster is going to be talking about Nina Mishkov and how much of a pain in the arse she is and how much he owned her on Wednesday night, actually in Mark Littlewood's space on GB News. Talking of Mark Littlewood, if you're wondering where on earth he's been, well, if you've been watching the show for the last 3 hours, you've seen him at least twice, but he's going to be here very shortly from his cabin in Calador. We will be speaking to Mark for an extended amount of time, see what he's been up to. He's even going to share a metric of madness with us, which is fantastic. It's almost going to be like he's here in the studio, which he will be again next week, by the way. Not till the middle of next week. You still got me for Monday and Tuesday, I believe. But welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm not going to ask a big question today. I'm actually going to put a poll up, and that will come up at some point soon. I can tell that because there's all sorts of kerfuffle going around. We've got the Duke, we've got the Princess, I believe the Russian's in the other room, the little one's back at home. Couldn't afford to bring her in today. Her day rate was ridiculous, but she was trained by the best. Duke's here, smashing, came in this morning. It honestly, like Wurzel Gummidge with his knob out. He was in the corner. He'd messed himself. He hadn't cleaned up. He'd not been drinking as much, which I think the problem is. So we need to try and get the drink right because you can't just take these people off it. But the Princess is still in love. She's still loving him, and no idea what all that's about. But we've all been there, haven't we? We've all been there. She's trying to sort him out. But the Duke is pressing the buttons. The Princess is stroking his hair while he throws up a little bit. Oh, she's just delivered me the newspapers, actually. Thank you, the Princess. We have on the front of the Sun, how did UK Town become a war zone? Well, indeed, that's up in the northeast of Middlesbrough. A lot of harrowing things going on up there, actually, in all seriousness. Mike covered it on his show. There seems to be gangland warfare up there. And the 5 young guys that died in that car seem to be very much part of that. And the coppers who lost their lives seem to be being forgotten a little bit at the moment. I'm not too pleased with that. We'll always remember those type of people here on this channel, and less so the other scallywags. But the Times, Nepal death toll climbs amid fears of new flood. Just said pole for no reason. Doesn't even say it. I'm not dyslexic. I mean, there's an actual word in there. Look, it's massive. It says flood. I just wrote Paul. I wonder what word will come into my head during the show. Let's play. Guess what Paul's going to say next? Because I don't know either. We've got the Daily Mail. Faces of Britons missing in Nepal. Wow. It's terrifying. Actually, we've all seen the images from there. I don't want to be dis-serious, I was going to say then. Has anyone ever said dis-serious in human English language? I don't think they have. I don't want to be unserious about Nepal. We've got the Princess laughing over here. The Duke's laughing, I think. That's a new emotion for him. He doesn't know emotions. He's usually just... well, actually, he went to the football last night. Not going to tell you which game in case you actually try and find the Duke. But they let him in. Paul Cox. Dan Hammer has just said Paul Cox. That is funny because my name's Paul and it's almost like Pole. And I just said Pole accidentally. And my surname's Cox, believe it or not. It's not a stage name. Many people ask me that, okay? That is my actual name. My parents looked at me and went, we're going to name this baby after an action. i.e. Paul Cox. But look, I'm withering on here. I've told you what guests we got. Lewis Schaefer's coming in later. I'm mentally preparing myself for that. I've taken a number of tranquilizers. I think I'm just about going to be ready. Coxy, ever more fluent, sign of growing confidence. Thank you. That suggests, by the way, that when I started, I wasn't very good. So I'm going to take that as a compliment. One guy earlier did a super chat on Mike saying how funny I was and that I should get a pay rise. The super chat was £5. What do you think this is? A charity? Make the super chats 500 quid, all right? Especially if they're going to come to me. They don't. I get 0.1% of that. A lot of it goes on the Duke's rehabilitation. I've decided that, you know, my purpose in life now is to look after the Duke. Scarlett, the princess, has fallen in love with him. And she's useless now because she is completely under his charms. And trust me, I saw this morning when his knob was hanging out why she could be in love. What else does it say in the comments? What am I doing? Ed James, Paul, you should be back page review as well as a great show. I think that makes sense to me. Thank you. Cheers. Miss Celia said, EI Sid, sorry, very good. Just answering themselves. Cox's apples, red and juicy. I didn't know I'd... No, my flies are done up. Can't be talking about that. MD, we are racist if we deport... Hang on, I'm going to go back up to that. That's a serious comment. The comments flow in, right? So sometimes I start reading them, I can't see it. Okay, what was I starting to say? We are racist if we deport, and we are racist if we keep them, but do not accept Sharia. The victim card is causing suicidal empathy. Well, that wasn't quite in tune with my humorous start to the show. But thank you very much. Look, by the way, all joking aside, please do keep those comments rushing in. I will try and read one in every 400. They come through very quickly. Cox is my secret man crush. Cheers, Kirk Rogers. Not so secret now, mate, is it? But thank you very much. Honestly, you can't choose the fans, can you? Too many knob jokes. I'm sorry. I got all my knob jokes in at the top. Actually shouted at me. Too many knob jokes. And maybe that should be the poll. Could you have? Is there such a thing as too many knob jokes? Well, my favourite knob is Mark Littlewood. Without him, I wouldn't be here. Without him, this show wouldn't be here. And I'm going to go live to him now before I say anything that ruins our show entirely. Good morning, Mark. How are you doing, my good friend?
Well, not too bad, Coxie, but look, I can't keep you under control with all of your 18 certificate humour from Studio 2 all this way out in beautiful, beautiful Calador. But yeah, I'm doing very, very fine. The weather is beautiful here. And the care and treatment has been wonderful too. I have absolutely nothing to complain about.
Yeah, and I know exactly why. Can we put up image number 7, please? Because during Plank of the Week, I noticed that the bottle that was turned up the right way yesterday has now turned up the other way, which is international language for I've drunk the champagne. And it's only 10 o'clock in the morning, Littlewood.
Yeah, but, you know, I've taken serious medical advice, Cox. You know, I like these Spanish doctors. They've told me to relax in any way that I see fit. And, you know, a bit of champagne for breakfast. Not a bad one. Not a bad one, actually.
How the other half of Hampshire live. That's all I can say. I mean, Mark, you've got so much for us today. So much for us. Look, I've really missed you this week. I didn't think I would. I thought, you know what? I need a rest from Mark. Turns out I'm in love with you. And I can't do anything about it. Now I'm starting to understand why the princess loves the Duke so much. Mark and Paul, great team. I know, can't believe it. A marriage made in Hampshire. Southampton won West Ham. I didn't put that up, Mark.
Yeah,
Dan Hammer put that up. That's nothing to do with me.
We've got Sophie later on the show, haven't you, Paul? So
yes. After you.
She's going to give us some grief. I'm going to tune out by then. West Ham United have managed to beat both Portsmouth and Southampton this season, and it's not even September. That's pretty shameful for Hampshire, isn't it, Cox?
They play Fulham next.
Is that right?
They play Fulham next. So I would love to have played West Ham, Southampton, and then Fulham. Would that have worked out? I guess it might have done. But no, needless to say, we decided to concentrate on the league. Largely the second half of the league, down near the bottom. That's the part of the league that Portsmouth are going to concentrate on, Mark.
Well, we're Southampton are bottom at the moment because of
well, you started with -4 points, so you've got a pretty valid excuse.
Yeah, that is true enough. We're now down to -1. So the temperature is rising in Southampton from -4 to -1. But we're going to have to get it up to something like 80 or so if we want promotion. We need a whole. I think you might be able to see something over my shoulder.
Oh my God! Look at that! It's been refreshed. It's unbelievable. Well, I mean, what is this life?
Yeah, well, as I say, I don't trust the NHS. You know, the Spaniards, they look after you pretty damn well, right? So there you go, there you go. I'll be tucking into that. You know, one with breakfast, one before lunchtime. That's about
Well,
the Duke would
naturally, that is the
approve,
course
right?
of things.
My aim today is to outdrink the Duke. I know he's on Carlsberg Special Brew,
He
but
is.
I have a slightly more refined palate, Coxie. So I'm going for the champagne. I mean, look, it's nearly the weekend, right? It's nearly the weekend. Is
Yeah,
that
it's
a
always
reasonable
the
enough?
weekend for the
Oh,
Duke.
and bear in mind, I am an hour ahead of you here, right? So
You are,
here it's
yes.
7 o'clock in the morning. I don't know. When's a reasonable time in the morning to drink champagne?
Another poll. You don't get this on Good Morning, do you?
Yeah, Cox's crass jokes and tips on how to become an alcoholic. That's what we
Yeah, I
bring you.
know. Sorry about the crash jokes. They just fell out of me this morning. They just sometimes they do. They stay in and they're not. Sometimes I just got to bubble out. You've got to let it out.
You've got to let it out. I agree with you. Well, Coxie, I've got a couple of things I want to put to you, and one's about this old theme that we keep returning to. Well, it's a new theme that we've got to keep returning to about where the right of centre in British politics looks, and for total nerds like me, very late Thursday nights or very early Friday mornings are quite exciting. Not just because I drink my way through a bottle of champagne, Coxie, but because Thursdays are the day when local council by-elections are held, right? So if a councillor has passed away or fallen ill, can't continue their duties or resigns, you get a council by-election. And there's usually 3 or 4 dotted up and down the country. And as I say, nerds like me pour through the results, look at whether the percentages are up, down, what does it mean? Can you extrapolate from it what might happen at a general election or what might even just happen in the constituency in which that poll has taken place? And my God, last night we had an absolute corker, Coxie. We had an absolute corker in Dover, right? In the ward of Guston, Kingston, and the wonderfully named St Margaret's at Cliff. There was a by-election, and the seat was being defended by the Conservative Party. It had previously been in Tory hands. Coxie, who do you reckon won?
Well, I'm guessing that I don't actually know, but I'm going to guess that Labour won actually on the basis that this has been very much set up as a Reform Conservative win, but all of a sudden Labour have pulled something out of the pocket. Is that right?
No, it's worse than that. Worse than that.
Worse, Greens, Lib Dems.
The Greens won the seat. I can't remember if it's image 1 or image 2, but we've got the result, I think. So, yeah, here you go. Guston, Kingston, and St Margaret's at Cliff. So keep this on the screen, because I think there is a salutary lesson here for common sensors, Coxie. The Greens win with 28.8% of the vote. They've nudged their vote up a little bit. Reform come from nowhere to get 27.5% of the vote. New, that means they didn't fight the seat last time. The Tories, well, it was their seat, but they've fallen backwards a long way, but still a relatively chunky 17.1% of the vote. Labour, your tip, in 4th place. Restore, 10.7% of the vote. Now, you know I'm a number cruncher, Coxie, so I added up Reform, Conservative and Restore as the basic vote on the right. I know some people have been arguing with me on Twitter. Some restorers are saying that Reform are too left-wing. Quite a lot of people are saying the Conservatives are too left-wing. But look, rough and ready numbers. That is a 55% block of votes on the right, and we have handed the seat to a communist on 28.8% of the vote. I must admit, I've yet to see an actual election result that so perfectly encapsulates the dangers of split voting. Overwhelmingly, a vote for the right in that seat, if you add up all the percentages, and guess what? You end up with a flaky, woke, green Marxist councillor. What do you make of that, Cox? Or are the numbers bewildering you at this time of a Friday morning?
No, the numbers are okay. Look, it's in all seriousness, it's the thing we feared the most in recent times because the left are very good at playing the political game. And they're much more emotional, the left. But one thing the right tend to be is much more belligerent. And unfortunately, it's belligerence that's going to cost this country, because many people on the right are fighting for their own faction. They've created their own identitarianism. I will only vote right if I only do X, Y, and Z. Well, that's not going to work. It's just simply not going to work. And I know that's just one poll, and I know that's just one by-election. But unfortunately, unless we get our act together on the right, that's going to extrapolate itself far enough across the country, obviously not everywhere, for it to be a real problem. Someone like me, and maybe even you, Mark, and many people in the comments simply don't understand how someone could vote for Greens. Simply don't understand it. It makes no sense. It's astonishing to us. It simply doesn't make any sense. John Golding said, my mother always told me to eat my greens. Well, we don't condone that here on UK Live, but if you do see any Green councillors, do feel free to have lunch.
We're in favour of crass jokes from Cox, and we're in favour of...
there's been a couple of my waspy
women... We don't endorse cannibalism, though, do we?
So I've had a mixed review. A lot of people, mainly men, very, very happy with the knob-based humour this morning, but some of my waspy women, not such big fans.
And so that's your key core fan base, Cox.
I'll have to back down from the knob stuff.
That's your core vote. Can't alienate them. But yeah, on that result, what's if you like even more frustrating about it was the three-way split. So if only one of Reform, Conservative or Restore had stood aside, the Greens would have lost, almost certainly. Almost certainly. Okay, you'll have some voters for each of those parties who wouldn't in a month of Sundays switch to another. But if the right had been split only two ways, not three ways, the Greens would have been defeated. So yeah, it's a snapshot, but look, I think it's a little bit of a message of, you know, what could go disastrously wrong if this isn't somehow sorted out, that you could see the right getting easily the most number of votes, but because of these splits, God only knows, we end up with
what's encouraging though.
Government.
What's encouraging is the total aggregate of the right score.
Sure.
It eclipses the left score, and it shows that if we can get our act together, and the Tories aren't briefing against Reform all the time, and Reform aren't saying they're going to destroy the Tories, and Restore saying no one in the Tories and the Reform have a right-wing thought between them. Then we might just get to the point where we get a solution.
Yeah, that's possible. That's possible. And I'm very ecumenical about this stuff. I think that it's important that, whichever party vehicle you think is the best, whether you're sceptical elsewhere, I think the key thing is to make sure that folk of a similar mindset treat each other with civility. Obviously, there's an exception for yourself and myself, Cox. We just throw brickbats at each other because of the inconquerable Portsmouth-Southampton divide. But as a general rule, with you and me as the exception, I think that you need to try and see the best in people who, even if they're in other parties, seem to be of a similar mindset. And actually, on that note, I wanted to pick out somebody from Restore Britain, who I think is talking a lot of common sense. I know that there's quite a few people who say, "Oh, Restore Britain have got some pretty dodgy people in it," and there are a few examples of that because they don't vet their membership. So you can have all sorts of strange people joining who aren't kicked out. But do you know who Orla Minihane is, Paul? Have you come across her?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, so she pops up on television quite
I think I've worked with her on a panel or two.
Yeah, she's a pretty sensible woman, and she was speaking. I don't actually know what the nature of the event was. I'm going to assume it was a Restore event, but I found a little clip of her on social media. So take this for a little bit of common sense, but I want you to look very carefully, not just at her and listen to what she's saying, but of the wider staging. I think it sent us a cunning subliminal message, Coxie and common senses. So can we play clip number 1 if we've got that, Duke?
We've got to protect our girls, but we have to remember that there are Indian, Asian girls, Pakistani girls, Bangladeshi girls, Somalian girls who are born here, who are suffering this fate every day. And we have got to protect them also. Yeah,
so now she's actually said, I think on social media, that she was getting some brickbats for saying that. You know, why are we protecting these people? These girls, they're foreigners. Well, no, they're in Britain. I'm completely with her. But the bit that really struck me, Cox, I thought this was very cunning messaging, is Restore Britain are in favour of reintroducing capital punishment. Did you notice the subliminal message? Maybe we can just play the first couple of seconds of the clip again.
The rope.
Can we play those first
Maybe
couple
it's
of
play that back, yeah. Yeah, get that clip back up, Duke.
Now, we've got to protect our girls, but we have to remember that there are Indian, Asian girls, Pakistani girls, Bangladeshi girls, Somalian girls who were born here.
Yeah,
so, there you go. I just think that's brilliant. You're talking about how you're going to tackle crime, and you leave nothing to the imagination. You have a bloody great noose hanging in the background. I mean, that's the way to get your message across, isn't it? Loud and clear. Pretty spectacular.
Yeah, vote for us all. Not only will we reinstate capital punishment, we'll hang you for not voting for us. Yeah, seems pretty reasonable to me.
Whereas my props are usually a glass of champagne. As well.
Glass of champagne. Yeah, delicious. Yeah. Oh yeah. Look at that. See what I've got here.
I've never off the Duke there, have I?
In here, I've got some of Duke's morning medicine, as he calls it, which is actually, like you say, Carlsberg extra strength tramp juice. So, cheers.
Cheers. Yeah, God only knows what that's laced with, Coxie.
Oh, so, it's everything. There's a hint of everything in there.
That's what I've been ruminating about. For those of you who are here for Plank of the Week, of course, Mike gave that to Tory leader Kenny Badenoch, because her team, at least, briefed that she'd been told by Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni not to work with Farage. But that seems to have had cold water poured on it by Meloni's team and certainly by Reform UK. What did you make of that from Kenny? She's also described working with Reform as monstrous. But I like an awful lot of what Kenny's coming out with, and I think she's moving the Conservative Party. I know loads of people will never, ever trust the Tories again. But, you know, walk a mile in Kenny Badenoch's shoes, and the worst that can happen with you, well, you end up with a pair of Kenny Badenoch shoes, unless she can catch up with you, I guess. But walk a mile in her shoes. She's kind of moved, you know, the Tories in the right direction, okay? Now, against carbon net zero, wants to pull out of the ECHR. And not only has she sort of said, well, you know, these are sort of good ideas, she's gone further. You cannot be a candidate for the Conservatives at the next election unless you support those pledges. So some of the more lily-livered Conservatives on that score, including, I think, Grant Shapps, the rumour is he's been struck off the list, and possibly Penny Mordaunt as well has been struck off the list.
Yeah.
So she sort of means business. But then I'm not sure it's very helpful to say, I've been told by the Italian Prime Minister not to talk to Farage. Also looks like it wasn't wholly true. Nor do I think it's a good idea to say working with Reform would be monstrous, I think she said in an interview. We could dial down the language a bit, don't we?
Well, I mean, don't just dial down the language. Don't make stuff up. Just don't make stuff up. It's quite clearly what's happened there is conflated a number of things within the conversation with Meloni, which you shouldn't be talking about anyway. Really not cricket. That's not the Queensberry's rules. And just don't allude to something that's simply not true. Because how does it help? It doesn't help her. It doesn't help her at all. She is actually about a week from saying you can't join the Conservative Party as an MP unless you vote Reform. Because there is so much in what she's asking that is on offer by Reform. So at some point, they're going to have to really start thinking about it. It would be quite formidable if they did. They're gifting politics to the left at the moment, simply gifting politics to the left. And
what I've got quite a lot of sympathy with, and you know, a lot of folk will say this in the chat, that some of it's obviously down to the policy platform, and I kind of pour through all of these announcements, especially if they got numbers in them. Oh, by the way, we must come to my metric of madness.
We will.
But so I pour through them all, and I'm just definitely noticing there's a convergence, right? They're not on exactly the same page. I wouldn't say that, but there are differences which are more than differences of nuance. But nevertheless, basic platform, get the welfare bill down, get out of the European Convention of Human Rights so you can tackle immigration and asylum, and abandon the craziness of carbon net zero. that's the beginning of coming together. But of course, Coxie, what it comes down to is not just what you say, it's whether people trust you, right? And therefore, the right are split into different tribes, not based wholly on policy, but based on who do you trust the most. You know, if you don't trust Farage, maybe you've gone off to Restore. If you don't trust the Tories after, you know, a pretty poor period in government, maybe you say, I'm never going to vote for them again, I'm going to go to Reform. So they've got to overcome the trust issue, not just get on the same policy platform. But those policies are coming back to, you know, are beginning to converge.
It's a bit of a shame, actually, because people don't trust the Tories, but many were learning to trust Kemi. And I think, though it's a small story this week, that's a very weak layer of trust that's been created. And it's chipped away at it because people have gone, well, that's not true. There is no quote. And everyone's distanced themselves from it. And it really doesn't matter if it was the journalist at the Times that made it up. I don't think it did. It was allowed to happen because Kemi herself hasn't come out and said, look, that's not what was said. It's a misunderstanding, which is very unfortunate. Because obviously her political opponent is Nigel Farage. But you know what? The world's moved on slightly. Voice for England. Mark is right. We need to be smart and clean house. It's true. It's true. Look, it's a bit like Portsmouth and Southampton merging to become Hampshire United. Neither Mark or want that. Mark or I want that. But I'll tell you what, if we had Hampshire United, we'd probably be in the Premier League. Because the combination of the two supports and revenues would create a pretty sizable club. And
I think you would find in that case, Coxie, we'd lose more people than we merge together, right?
Yeah, maybe. But you say that. But look at Spygate, for instance. I remember every Southampton mate of mine, when Spygate finished, was like, "Oh, I've had it with the club. That's it. It's enough. I'm not buying my season ticket next year." It's full up. It's just emotion. I mean, by the way, I don't want Portsmouth and Southampton to unite. But what I'm saying is a bit like asking for that, but for the greater good of the country.
Yeah. Well, I don't mind so much if football's divided, it's supposed to be, but it would be a bit like if Portsmouth broke into two separate teams or Southampton broke into three separate teams. We wouldn't even then be in the Championship, right? You would start to fall right down the leagues. So that's sort of what's happened to the right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That it used to be broadly, I mean, Nigel Farage chipped away at it quite brilliantly on a number of occasions with UKIP and then the Brexit Party. But he would sort of pop up, get the Conservatives back on track and then kind of go away again. Now we've got a more fundamental split. Anyway, on happier news, do you reckon it's time for something, Coxie?
Yeah, let's play the jingle.
It's time for Mark's metric of madness.
Now, I reckon my metric of madness is just about guessable. You might not get the exact thing right, but I think you'll be able to guess the sort of thing I'm getting at, Coxie and common sensors. And I've got two smallish financial numbers to give you. Perhaps we can put the image on screen. I think it's image number 2, Duke. So hold that on the screen if you wouldn't mind. £27.65 versus £9.55. In roundabout terms, because I'm always happy to generalise, the bigger number is about 3 times the smaller number. £27.65 versus £9.55. Coxie viewers, have you got any idea at all what my metric of madness is today? And bear in mind, it's always a number, a ratio, a series of numbers that points to the madness of the world, or in particular, the madness of the United Kingdom. Cox, any guess?
No, genuinely, I'm looking at that thinking, is that the price difference between something? I really don't know.
Okay, well, pull it up again, and I think this will shock a lot of you. So this is the price in England on the left, and in Spain on the right, if you wanted to have 2 pints of beer and a packet of cigarettes. Wow. In England, that will cost you £27.65. I've taken about the average for a pint of beer in England. It's much more expensive in London, but I think that's £5 for a pint of beer is assumed to be the average. In Spain, way lower than that. So a packet of cigarettes and 2 pints of beer, which, as we both know, Coxie, is the basic staple of any healthy diet, right?
Yes.
A packet of cigarettes.
According to your doctor.
According to my doctor, topped up with a little bit of champers. 3 times the price in the United Kingdom compared to Spain. I would also remind you that Spain is ruled by the socialists at the moment, right? So it's not as if there is some enlightened pro-freedom government here that wants to tax people less, but nevertheless, a third of the price. If you are a Spaniard and you want a packet of cigs, 2 pints of beer, £9 or so, if you want the equivalent in the UK, basically it's 3 times that, 27 quid and above. So when you hear our new dear leader, Andrew Burnham, talking about the cost of living crisis, always bear this in mind. Much of that cost of living crisis has been imposed upon you by the government. For a large number of households, tax is your biggest bill. For some, it's rent, but for most households, tax is your biggest bill. And a lot of it is hidden, because if you do buy tobacco or alcohol, you kind of think the price you're facing is kind of the market cost. You get used to what it costs to buy a pint of beer, a bottle of wine, a gin and tonic or whatever. But most of it, Coxie and common sensors, is tax. So the next time Andy Burnham or one of his acolytes goes on about the cost of living crisis, I'd like to throw those 2 numbers back at him and say, well, what are you going to do to lower the cost of living on people who choose to smoke tobacco or drink beer, because you are pricing people out of those sort of goods and products. Now, if he comes back and says, well, smoking's bad for you, drinking's bad for you, we want to discourage that. Okay, but then you don't really care about the cost of living, right? You're putting the supposed health of people on tight salaries as a higher priority. So, message is, if you want to get the cost of living down, at least in the area of these 2 products, then it would be very wise for the UK government to take a lead from the rather more enlightened Spanish government, and those little luxuries in life would suddenly become a little bit more affordable. Well, not a little bit more affordable, a lot more affordable, about a third of the price. What do you make of my metric of madness today, Coxie?
I think it's further proof of politics of fear, because what we've been told for a very long time is that the hiking of the tax is good for us. Good for us in a number of ways. Good for our health. Look, of course we're going to tax beer. Of course we're going to tax cigarettes. It's very bad for you. Okay, you carry on doing it. We'll take more tax. They then put that into their coffers. And what do they spend it on? They spend it on whatever they want. We don't really vote on that, because you get the general election every 4 or 5 years, and they say we're going to do X, Y, and Z. They never do X, Y, and Z. They go off and do A, B, and C, which they were planning to do anyway. And it serves about 4% of the population, and that money just gets frittered away. So it's this vicious cycle. It's like the mafia's running the country, and they're doing it for our own good. Very. I don't like it, Mark.
Yeah, you're onto a really good point, Coxie. And oftentimes, I don't know what the viewers will think of this, because, as you know, I come from a very, very free market perspective. I want the government to do a lot less. I want individual men and women to take much more control of how they spend their own money, rather than handing it over to politicians to do it. But I actually think that the free market itself is a pretty democratic exercise, okay? We don't all hold a vote on whether we want to go and, I don't know, buy a hamburger from McDonald's or a hamburger from Burger King. We don't have a massive vote about it and then give people either McDonald's product or Burger King product. No, we each vote individually with our wallet. So you get kind of proportional representation in the open market. If you want McDonald's, if 48% want McDonald's, they can have McDonald's. If the other 52% want Burger King, they can have Burger King. Perhaps it's nothing like that high. Perhaps 30% want neither and to spend the money on something else. You get perfect proportional representation if you leave people to vote with their own money. Now, there obviously are some things that the government should do. You know, there are services, there are products, there are safety things that we need to club together to provide that you wouldn't buy on the open market. We're not going to sell nuclear weapons on the open market. they need to be funded by tax. I think you can make the same case for the policing, the justice system, the army, the navy, etc. But by and large, for products and services that you can choose from, as long as we make sure that the poorest in society have some access to them, that's what the welfare state's supposed to do, give you a little bit of access, although we would like people to stand on their own 2 feet, then the most democratic way of deciding is not to leave these decisions to Andy Burnham and his government about what products and services you're going to get. It's to let individual people make those decisions themselves with the resources they've got available to them. So I've always thought free market decision making, an open market, choosing where you buy your products and services from is democracy in action every minute of every day. Much more flexible. You don't wait 5 years and then go to the local church or the local community centre to put one cross in one box. You're making decisions about how you want to live your life, who you trust to sell you products and services every time you make a purchase. The most beautiful form of democracy.
Absolutely. Well played, Mark Littlewood. Look, you're absolutely right. Now, individualism, freedom of choice, free markets, and democracy are right wing. So you know exactly what you got to do. And unfortunately, you've got about 6 choices. So we need to consolidate. Look, Mark, I've got Sophie Kokoran waiting in the wings, so I'm going to have to let you go. Thanks so much for joining us, mate. Enjoy the rest of your champagne. I'll tell you what, the Duke has been drooling over your morning schedule. Very envious. He might be, look, if you're not careful, he might be on his way out there. But cheers, Mark. Enjoy the rest of your, and we'll speak to you next week.
See ya.
Wow. Gotta love Mark Littlewood. I miss him. I'm sure you do too. What a fantastic bunch of numbers there. The economy is on its knees, and the person with the answers is Mark Littlewood. But they're never going to get him in charge, are they? Let's face it, because he's got too much common sense. Down the line now, I've got Sophie Kokoran. Labas.
Hello.
How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you.
Notice a bit of Lithuanian then, because I know you've got a Lithuanian other half. You must have learned a bit more than Labas, I assume.
Probably not, to be honest. I suck. I really suck. His mum was trying to talk to me the other day, and I was like, she was like looking through. I have like a little like notebook of all of my Lithuanian. She was like, "Oh, you're getting so good," and I'm like, "Stop lying to me! Like I can barely say like, hello, how are you? I like dogs." Do you know what I mean?
So-
Like ridiculous.
I like just keep saying it over and over. Look, first of all, huge thank you. You're wearing the right top. Now, I know you beat Pompey 3-1 in the Carabao Cup, but then you went and beat Southampton 4-1, which means a number of things. Southampton are out. Pompey could beat Southampton 1-0 because that's the ancient rules of football. You've beaten them by one more goal than you beat Portsmouth, which means Pompey are better than Southampton. So for you and I, and Mark's no longer available to talk to, so we don't have to listen to him, we all win, don't we? You win, I win, Mark loses.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we did have a bit of a bad day against Charlton. I did
Yeah,
send
don't
Mark
worry about
Littlewood a message after because he was watching Southampton. I just sent him a message saying, "Oh my God, we're so cooked," and he just sent me a message back saying, "It's early days yet. It's early days. Don't worry." But I think there is definitely room to worry. But our kids, our youngsters, did very, very well. We've got some really bright talent coming up, which is really exciting. So hopefully,
That's good to
they'll
hear.
carry us.
That's good to hear. Look, Kokoran, you are fighting a battle of your life right now. And it's not just about GCHQ and about internships, is it? Tell us all what this is about.
So I'm taking a group to court over the black internship about so they have like these black only internships. So we saw them come out with GCHQ and MI5 this week, but I'm taking a different one to court, and this is with the Bar Council. So this is the group that sort of represents barristers, and they also had a very similar sort of black only internship scheme. You can only apply for this scheme if you're a black with black heritage. I'm doing a law master's beginning in January because I would like to be a solicitor. But it's just really difficult to get any sort of work experience. To be honest, with grad jobs, you know, I've been out of university since autumn and I'm just working in hospitality because that's literally all there is to do. There's no other grad jobs at the minute. We saw at the moment the grad jobs have declined by 50%. So here we have all of people in my age group really struggling to find any sort of work at all. That, you know, isn't sort of beyond hospitality or whatever, and there's a very selective group of individuals who have the privilege of competing against no one. So this is what's happening. I'm taking them to court. I've had enough of these racist internship schemes. It's a David versus Goliath battle because we're also taking the CPS, which is the Crown Prosecution Service, to court as part of it as well. So yeah, I'm taking on the state essentially because politicians don't want to.
Yeah, and you didn't point it out, but I want to point it out on your behalf. You're doing this at great cost to yourself, potential risk to your future career. Although I suspect, as the tables very slowly turn, this will be actually a bonus for you in the long run. And if it's not a bonus for you, Sophie, it's going to be a bonus for generations of white kids that come after you. Now, we are told that equality is the equality of outcome for all. So therefore, everybody should be treated equally. What's the difference between you and a black woman?
Well, literally nothing, and this is what one of my point was, and I think why I'm the perfect person really to take these to task, because I went to a state school in special measures. I'm from Thurrock in Essex, I think you've probably told by my accent, I'm hardly one of the, the posh people in society, but also I'm grotesquely dyslexic, which Mark Littlewood finds very funny. And yeah, I'm really dyslexic, and I grew up with epilepsy. I was also born deaf, so thankfully I can hear now. They fixed that when I was 10. But I didn't have the easiest time, but I kept on going as you should. But apparently a black person that's gone to a private school is somehow more privileged than I am. And I think this is why I'm really against it, this whole idea of white privilege. We know for a full fact that white young working class people have the worst outcomes in terms of education. But not only that, how can you in one breath tell me that I'm privileged because I'm white when it's the very fact that I'm white that is stopping me from applying for these jobs? We're the only group in society where you can actually be discriminated against because of your race and it be acceptable, and yet they're turning around and telling me I'm privileged. Is it privilege to somehow face the worst educational outcomes out of every single other race? Is it privileged to be subjected to two-tier justice in this country, whereas if you're white and you're right wing, you're going to face a harsher sentence? And how am I somehow privileged because I'm quite literally being banned from applying to jobs or opportunities just because I'm white? It's absurd. So I don't think you can square that circle. How are you in one breath telling me I'm privileged, but the exact reason you're telling me I'm privileged is the reason that I'm losing out on any basic opportunity?
Yes, very well said. And look, it's worth pointing out also that it's not the other internship candidates, black or otherwise, that are causing the problem. It's the system, which interestingly is quite heavily led by the white middle and upper classes, which are often prejudiced against the white working classes, of which I am one also. You don't support Pompey and West Ham if you're anything other than working class. But look, these people have got control of the system. These people feel guilty. And these are the people that are saying we're going to make the change by artificially cramming in people of colour into the system to make them feel better. Not to make the system better, not to make the future better, but to make them feel better, Sophie.
No, and it's hugely discriminatory on both sides. It's not only us that are losing out. And we look at the sort of the situation with Jason Arday. I mean, I argued at the time that his life was he was a beneficiary of DEI because any success that he had, he wouldn't have had without it. But ultimately, he was also a massive victim of it. And I get accused a lot of the time. I mean, I had a Guardian article written about me saying, I'm coming after disadvantaged groups. But these people are extremely racist. I saw a tweet, I think it was from, I can't remember what politician it was this week actually, but she basically said, black people are within the relation to the Jason Arday case, that black people are subjected to impossible standards. I mean, what is impossible about being truthful and being honest and not cheating your way through life? And also, they have these, I also get told, well, if we don't have these schemes, there's going to be no black people in any of these positions. Well, why not? Why not?
Well,
because you don't think that
quite.
they're capable of it? Because you think that if they didn't have a leg up and if they didn't cheat their way through it, they just wouldn't get there because there's no way these people could be as smart or as good as white people? Because that's sounding very racist to me. So I don't think I'm the racist one here. I get accused of being racist, but ultimately these people are far more racist than we are. And secondly, there was a message from Chris Philp this week, who is a Conservative MP, and he was like, oh, this is terrible, this is racism. Why don't you do something then? Why are you leaving it to me, a random West Ham fan from Essex, having to, take on the fight of my life against massive parts of the state, when I have almost no power, at a significant financial cost, which is not really the problem, but at a significant personal cost. I mean, I was suspended because from my job because of this court case, so I'm having to take on a significant personal cost to fight something that you can change as an MP. Put in a private member's bill.
Yeah. So you actually have lost a job that you were holding because they found out that you were taking this case, that you were raising this issue. So, but what were you doing? I mean, you don't need to mention the company, but what were you doing?
It was just a hospitality job, but it's so difficult for any young people to find work at the moment. We've got over a million young people that are unemployed. So losing your job in this economy, is no mean feat. And I don't do media as much as a lot of the other people. I don't really make a living off of media. So it was quite literally my job. I loved it, but yeah, I got suspended from work because of it. And
Can I ask, Sophie, sorry to interrupt you, but can I ask what reason they gave?
Because it made my co-workers feel uncomfortable. I'm still suspended. I actually haven't been fired yet, so it'll be interesting to see if they can or will. But either way, it made them. And I also, some of the other things, I also said that the government should be prioritising young British workers for low-skilled jobs instead of low-paid migrants from India. And obviously, when you work in that environment, a lot of my colleagues are low-skilled migrants from India, and I'm like, well, this is wrong. Our government has to do more to get young people back into work. It's inexcusable for governments to be hiring low-skilled migrants from India when we've got a million young people out of work who are desperate for a job. By the way, I don't take any of this nonsense. Oh, young people don't want these jobs. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. I've been applying for jobs in this sort of manner because I would literally take any job. And you'll get rejected from them. So lots of young people do want these jobs. And I said that I personally believe that governments should start finding companies that hire massive amounts of Indian workers. We've seen this thing at the moment with Andy Burnham and Sainsbury's. He's getting like 10,000 young people to do work placements at Sainsbury's. Those 10,000 young people could have jobs at Sainsbury's if they stopped hiring low-skilled migrants, adult, middle-aged Indian men in their favour. And I'm not afraid to say it, and I don't care. And they're like, oh, this could make your co-workers uncomfortable. I turned around and said, have any of the actual migrant co-workers complained of how I treated them? Oh, no.
Well, exactly.
So I've been suspended for like 3 weeks now.
It's
and I turned around and said, give me evidence.
Yeah, no, they won't provide any evidence either because they don't need to. But I guarantee you this, Sophie, irrespective of what you and I say, over the coming years between now and the next general election, there will be government policy on both sides of the divide that says exactly what you're saying, that they'll be trying to, because it's a vote winner, they'll be trying to win votes on the back of looking after British people first. Not just British people, just they are put towards the front of the queue so that we can build our nation once again. And that's how the economy grows. Because if you put in cheap foreign national labour that work for short terms and then travel back home, much like the Eastern Europeans did before Brexit, then you are not building a long-term economy. You are building a short-term economy. And people are starting to see the product of that. So what you're arguing for, I guarantee this, will be a policy, probably even a Labour policy within 3 years. But it will 100% be a reform policy, a conservative policy, a restore policy, anything on the right, it will be a vote winner. So what you're arguing for now and what you're getting demonised for now will become government policy within a couple of years. And you are going to make your employer look incredibly silly.
Yeah, I've always said this, to be fair, like, I will commit my entire life to ending DEI. If I don't do it within this court case, if we win this court case, I'll sue every single company that has done this to young white British people. And if we lose this court case, well, I've already written a private member's bill with a KC. And if we lose it and we prove the law is racist, then we change the law, and change it we will. I will spend my entire life combating DEI because I stand for two things in life, and that's fairness, and it's meritocracy, and it's opportunity. And I think those things should absolutely be defended by every single political party in this country. I think if you want to run a political party, your politics is very simple. You defend three things: you defend family, you defend freedom, and you defend fairness. And this is an ultimate thing about fairness, and I will win. I will win. It
Yes.
may take me a year, 2 years, 5 years, my whole life. I don't care. I will win. And you can sack me from whatever job you want, because I have a bigger mission in life, and it's to make sure that my children are treated fairly, and that when my children grow up, that they grow up in a country where they have opportunity because they've earned it, and they're not being denied opportunity because they were born white.
So you're going to start your bloody. I nearly stood up and played the national anthem. Then, Sophie, that was absolutely tremendous. That's a clip. That is definitely clippable. We'll be clipping it. You clip it. Let's share that wide. But look, you're sitting down to study from January. What are you studying?
I'm doing a master's in law, which is really exciting.
So is that and what did you study previously?
So I did a politics degree. So I actually haven't studied law yet. So it's going to be quite a big jump. But I'm doing my dissertation on the Equalities Act. So I'm going to tear it apart from top to bottom. I'm really quite interested on the Equality Act and its impact on businesses. We've seen the fact that I saw a case the other day where the Met Police got sued for like 20 grand or something because they didn't give someone with ADHD headphones because they already had headphones. It's utterly ridiculous. The Equality Act is first of all doesn't do what it says on the tin, because as we know, it's entrenched with racism, which is what this case is about. So it's going to be very heavily about my court case, but also it's terrible for businesses, and it's just a really bad piece of legislation. And for a lot of time in politics, we spend a lot of time thinking, how can we make new laws? What we don't do enough is looking at the laws we already have and saying, actually, they're a load of crap and we need to take them all down. So I'm very much a Mark Littlewood of, I hate laws unless they're good laws, and most laws aren't good laws. So yeah, hopefully we can look at some of our laws that were put in, under Tony Blair, which was, before I was born, or at the very early parts of the Conservative government when I was young, and say, actually, we haven't looked back and said, have these laws done what they've intended to do, or are they causing unintended consequences? Like we're seeing, the Equalities Act is a perfect example of it. And because it is a perfect example of it, that's what I'm going to do my dissertation on. But my principle remains the same, of that we should look back at the laws we have and say, are they doing what they're supposed to be doing? If they're not, can we change them? And if they can't be changed, them, let's just repeal them and replace them with something else.
Such an important point, because laws are no longer built on morality or practical requirement. They're built on ideology, a political ideology. You talk about Tony Blair, and I was around when Tony Blair, I was 17 when Tony Blair came into power in 1997, and it felt like a new dawn. Little did we know at that point how insidious the Tony Blairite, Brownite government was going to become. But people forget, because that's only 30 years ago, that previous to that, none of this really existed. They imposed it upon the people of the UK, and it could just be withdrawn as easily as it was put in. You have to look at what value it adds. Do we want our laws to be controlling our people based on identifiable characteristics? And where does that end? I mean, Sophie, I know you're never going to give up on this, but where do you see your future? What is it you want for yourself personally? When you win this, whether it takes 16 losses and 1 win, when you do eventually win this, what do you want to do with your? You're going to have a lot of knowledge by that point. You're going to have a degree in politics. You're going to have a master's in law. All these things are going to be true, and you would have beaten the government. What are you going to do? Because everyone in our comments says that you, as a young woman, along with a lot of the other inspirational young women that we've had on this show recently, are giving them hope, are making them feel proud to be British again. What are you going to do, Sophie? What are you going to do when you've won all these battles?
Well, I think if I manage to beat the state on this issue, and the fact that politicians have just ignored it for a long time, I think the politicians that are there should be very worried, because I'm coming for their crown. Because unlike them, I'm actually going to do something. If I can win this outside of Parliament, just think about what I can do within it. Lady
Corcoran of Thurrock. I like it already. By the way, whilst you're there, we had a super chat. Can we get that back up on the screen? So Nanny Lulu, huge fan of the show, huge fan of you. I love it a bit. She's donated £10. That interview alone was worth a super chat. Sophie, good luck, pop it. Well done. Fantastic, Sophie. Look, who have West Ham got this weekend?
Oh God, I haven't even checked, to be honest. I've been concentrating. It's my final pre-season game of the season, and Coxie, I have to tell you because I'm so excited. I've never been so happy in my life. We had a tournament this weekend just gone, and we got to the final against a team 2 divisions above us. And I hate penalties. Like I missed one the season before in a cup, and I was like, oh my God. And I was like, I don't want to take one. And my coach was like, Sophie, you kind of have to take it because you're like our top goal scorer. I was like, damn. And then, so I was like, "Oh, can I go? Can I go second?" And she was like, "No, you're going fifth." And this team were in the final, 2 divisions above us, and I scored the winning penalty, and we won the tournament, and we won every game. I also scored the winning goal in the semi-final and the game to get us into the semi-final as well. So I am really happy. I'm on cloud nine. I actually have the little medal here. Look, I don't know if it's gonna get it, but woo!
Get
We
in
actually
there.
won. We won.
That's
So I thought I'd
fantastic.
tell you about that because lots of people on here know about my quest to get 25 goals by the end of the season. I've got one more preseason game left, and then the season starts next week. But preseason counts for my goals, so I'm 6 goals down already. So 19 to go. But hopefully, I can get a few more this weekend. So my focus has not been on West Ham. It was on West Ham beating Southampton because obviously got to beat Mark Littlewood. I did give him a little bit of a for that. I'm
Good for
sure you'll be
you.
pleased to know. But yeah, this weekend, final preseason game. So that's where my focus at the moment.
Oh, well, you are a true winner, Sophie Corcoran. Where can people find you?
You can find me on my X, which is at SophieLouiseCC, or if you have Instagram or Facebook, it's pretty much the same name.
Go and follow Sophie. Do you have a GoFundMe or anything on the go at the moment?
Yeah, I have a GoFundMe for the crowdfunder, which I've sent to. You think UK Live have it already? If not,
Yeah.
I'll put it on my Twitter profile, and people can
I'm
do
sure
that.
we do, actually.
We've already raised, I think, 27 grand. I want to say around that, which is good. So we've still got a little while to go until the first hearing. I don't think the first hearing is until sort of later next year, coming on next year. So when the tribunal will actually begin. So we've still got quite a little while to raise some money yet, which is good.
Keep supporting Sophie. Sophie, keep the great work. I know this is just the beginning for you, and that's why I'm keeping you on side, because when you are Empress of the UK, I'm going to be your, well, just ignore Mark. I'll be your communications director, and we can ban Southampton. We'll ban Southampton. First policy. All right. Cheers, Sophie. Take care. Have a great weekend.
Bye. Thank you.
Didn't give her a chance or a right to reply there. She's just agreed to ban Southampton. I think that's now law. Do we have another super chat?
Yeah, we got a couple from earlier.
The Duke. Wow, principled uncertainty, super chat for £10. Larry Miller was wrong. There is a 6th level. Super chatting Cox. Nick Dixon for life. Well, yeah, we had Nick on the show as my buddy earlier on in the week. And we've got another one here, also from principled uncertainty. He said, I made more betting on women's sports than my portfolio. No quant can price the randomness. It's level playing field. That was a mouthful, but thank you very much for that super chat. Please do keep them coming in. We're going to go to the news now, and then we're back with Russell Quirk.
Oh, hi there. Fiona MacLeod here with your Friday news. I've missed you all loads. King Charles is heartbroken after Nepal floods left about 33 Britons missing, children among them. 7 people have been charged for spraying "Gaza is not for sale" across Trump's Turnberry. Prosecutors are whispering terrorist connection. Nothing says high politics like graffiti on a billionaire's fairway. The Tate brothers are moaning about US jail while fighting extradition on rape and trafficking charges. An ex-Barclays boss denies sex with a woman dressed as Snow White after the Epstein emails. A former teacher has been convicted of indecently assaulting 2 London schoolboys in the 1980s. Wowzers. Russia says Britain is playing with fire over Ukraine missiles and has threatened UK targets. The knob of the North is promising rape specialists in every force by 2027 and getting called populist by Mike Ashley. See you later, alligator.
Well, that was the news there. Lovely jubbly. Thank you, Fiona. Look, I have got a wonderful guest now. As a man who always inspires me to be slightly more cheeky than I am on a regular basis. It's Russell Quirk. How you doing, Russ?
Yeah, you and me together, we should be banned, I think. We always get into trouble.
Well, there's plenty of time today to be banned. Trust me, we've only just begun. Russell, look, before we get chatting, I just want to play a little clip just to set the tone of what we might talk about. Play it.
Nina's whole argument is this. Let me just sum up Nina's argument, which is there's a bit of crime that goes on.
Is this mansplaining?
No, I'm not mansplaining.
Is this mansplaining?
No, I'm explaining.
That's exactly what you're doing. You're pathetic. You don't even recognise what you are.
This has got nothing to do with gender. This has got everything to do with my views, which are commonsensical, and yours, which are absolutely bonkers, Nina.
Oh. That's a very, very logical.
I don't get to the argument if you let me actually get the word in this way.
You tell me what I'm saying.
Right. What
you explain to me as a man what I, as a woman, is saying. I'm coming from a different.
It's got nothing to do with men and women.
It is absolutely to do with men and women. It is absolutely to do with men and women.
Now you're explaining to me. Can you just?
I am not. I'm just defending myself against a bully.
A bully. Stop playing the gender card. It's pathetic.
I am not playing a gender card.
If no one makes a point actually on this topic in a second, I'm going to have to...
I'm going to make a point. What Nina thinks is because there's a bit of crime in Britain, it's okay to import loads more. That's what she thinks.
I didn't say that. I did not say that at all. My theory is that the government
is... not in office.
Oh, for God's sake, just stop it. You're pathetic. My theory is that the government is not releasing this information because they are terrified as to what will happen, and that the people who will be inflamed are the vigilantes, and that will inflame racial tension. And while we are concentrating on these cases, we are not concentrating...
Russell, please do me the honour of mansplaining to me and the audience what on earth was going on there. By the way, that was delicious. I enjoyed every single minute of that, and I'm sure our audience did too.
Yeah, as many people on X and elsewhere have said, TV Gold. GB News clearly get the likes of you and I on purpose, and they pair us on purpose with the likes of Nina Mishkoff and Matt Stadler and Jonathan List, because I think although you see kind of faces of exasperation, I think, from the likes of Patrick Chris, although I obviously sitting there, I couldn't see Patrick's face. So that's actually the first time that I've looked back at that and seen his... Well, he's not exasperated. He's amused, isn't he? He thinks
trust me, having sat next to Patrick a number of times and done a similar thing, that is Patrick thoroughly enjoying himself.
Yeah, he's loving seeing the left destroyed, which, as I say, you and I do on a kind of weekly basis, really.
Yeah, it's sport, isn't it?
Yeah. No. So the problem now, I think, for people like Nina Mishkoff this week, and of course the Matt Stadler clash with me the week before absolutely blew up on social media. I mean, literally, that's still being commented on across Facebook and Twitter. I think we must be near 1 million views of those particular social media clips that I put up. The problem is, it's not just that they don't have a coherent argument. It's not just that they can't defend, although they try and defend the indefensible. It's because people like us now have worked out the way they argue, right? Now, I was on the Dan Wootton show yesterday dissecting this, and this is the bit that I think really, really gets to those rampant lefties, in that you sit there now, I comment and commentate on how they're arguing. So you go, right, okay, so right, first you're going to deflect, okay, so we'll do that for a few seconds, shall we? So we're talking about migrant rape. You want to talk about horrible white men beating up their wives 10 years ago. Okay, we'll do that for a few seconds if you want, but we know what you're doing, right? You're deflecting because you can't possibly defend the fact that we are importing rapists into this country, right? You can't defend it. Then they get into the over-talking thing, which Nina Mishkoff is the queen of, right? She is the queen of over-talking. She's also the queen of over-talking everybody else. But as soon as you interrupt her, she says, this is outrageous. You've got to let me speak. You've got to let me finish. And then comes stage 3, Paul, which of course is the personal. The personal from her is always, and she's done it with Adam Brooks, I'm sure she's done it with you, the personal then becomes, you're a bully, you're a misogynist, you're mansplaining, as if you yourself then are being labelled almost as a kind of domestic abuser in your argument style. That's what she tried to do to me on Wednesday night. And I just laugh it off. I think it's pathetic. She does it all the time. And as I tried to explain on the sofa that night, arguing with a woman is nothing to do with gender. I argue with Nina Mishkoff in exactly the same way as I do with Matt Stadler, Jonathan List, Benjamin Butterworth, Matthew Holbert, right? It's in exactly the same way. I will be robust. I will take them to task. I will interrupt them if they go off on a tangent and pull them back. I will insult them if they insult me. But they think it's a one-way street, don't they? So I think we've dissected the way that the left argue, and they hate the fact that we've been able to do that.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And Russell, one thing I really like to try and do is, because they're always banging on about equality, like you say, you would treat Nina the way you would treat Matt Stadlin, for instance, because why wouldn't you? Because otherwise you end up, that is misogyny. If you go, look, I'm just going to, you won't understand because you're a woman. And I'm going to dumb this down. I'm going to make it Janet and John so you can understand. And then the men are going to have a chat. You imagine if we did that. That's not what we do at all. I don't look at these opponents based on what genitals they got. Sometimes I ask them if I can see. They always refuse. But I don't base... sorry. There are people in the room that are...
You don't see gender.
I can't see gender or colour. It's a huge problem for me, Russell. But we treat everybody equally and with the same disdain. And I think it's great. I think it's progression. I think it's what they're asking for. I don't understand how they can continue down the path they're on. If someone's self-harming, you don't say to them, just carry on. Carry on, eventually it works. Because that is what we're doing as a country. We're self-harming. And then we're being gaslit to death. As Mark Littlewood would say, we're gaslit Britain. I mean, gaslit to death by these people to take us down the same path. And because people aren't necessarily engaged in politics, and more people are, and why they're coming more and more towards reform, for instance, is because reform are pointing out the bleeding obvious. It's the party of the bleeding obvious. And, I'm not trying to dumb down reform, but that's why it's garnering so much popularity, Russ.
Yeah, it is the obvious, and it's the obvious that obviously for some, but including the Conservative Party over the last God knows how many years, there's been overt caution to talking about that which is staring us in the face, right? Whether it's crime, whether it's immigration, whether it's net zero, whatever. The Conservatives, of course, now, Paul, are doing a reasonable job of just copying a right-wing agenda. They've kind of taken themselves back 25, 30 years to the days of Thatcher to try and re-engage the true Conservative base. But of course, the true Conservative part of the political spectrum now is occupied by reform, right? And that's it. We're consistent. The Tories are now on the back foot trying to copy. Can I just make one other observation about the Nina Mishkov argument, which I have heard before from others. And it takes me back actually to the whole reason that largely Pakistani Muslim men were able to rape British women and girls for about 30 years. And that is to play a defensive game when you're talking about migrant crime. That is, if you talk about it and call it out and do something about it, it will ignite tensions in communities. It will inspire vigilantes. Now, none of us are going to condone vigilante behaviour that crosses the legal line. But I would just suggest, right, this is where that common sense that you just mentioned kind of kicks back in. This is where reform aren't scared to say these things. I would suggest that migrant rape is probably the problem rather than the vigilantes that exposing such migrant rape statistics might lead to. Don't you agree?
Oh, absolutely do agree. Look, we've seen this week, actually, particularly with the Tories and Kemi Badenoch. And Mark Littlewood and I were having a chat about this earlier. We looked at the percentages of a by-election down in Kent, I think it was. And the aggregate score of the right was incredibly high, but the Greens won. Now, at some point, people are going to have to start getting behind reform. Or we're going to lose the fight and it's over. Would you agree with that, or would you, or are you firmly in the camp of reform have to go this alone and you don't need anyone else?
Look, obviously, I think that reform is strong enough in terms of our policy agenda, our presence, and the support that clearly we've got. We are the most popular party in British politics, right? And that's just been confirmed by, not least the resounding victory in the May elections, which is why I'm sitting here at Essex County Council, County Hall, as one of 52 Reform County councillors. That there is no more demonstrable kind of proof than that. Look, how do I feel about Restore? I think I'd like Restore not to exist, of course, because they are splitting the vote, right? Again, let's just be honest. Let's just tell it how it is. Restore's policies in some respects are no different to Reform's. In fact, a lot of Restore policies seek to mimic Reform. I think some of the stuff that they've talked about, particularly their supporters on social media, which they may or may not be able to control, some of the stuff and some of their commentators, some of their very, very prominent commentators, I think are too extreme, right? So, and actually, here's the controversial bit. I think Restore have become a filter for those people that, frankly, we would not want in reform. Right, so they've become the kind of vacuum cleaner, dust filter for reform to not have to deal with people that perhaps otherwise might be a bit extreme. Right, because in a party of 250,000 members, you can't possibly vet everybody that signs up for 25 quid on the website every day, right? You just can't do that. But it seems to me that what I've seen from the Restore supporter social media feeds, I think the majority of the knuckle draggers, if you like, are Restore supporters, right? Now, I'm definitely going to say too much here. I'm probably going to get into trouble later on. But I think that Rupert Lowe's problem is that he is anti-Nigel, right? So his whole motivation to me seems to be to try and destroy Nigel Farage. And in doing so, it's a bit like, the captain, the guy that wants to be captain of the ship, that can't be captain of the ship, sinks the ship, right? That's what I think Rupert Lowe is doing. However, what I would say is that Rupert talks some sense, and I think he is an incredibly good MP insofar as his profile, his speaking, how he articulates his point, and so on. So is he a loss to reform, if you were to ask me that? I'm interviewing myself here. Is he a loss to reform? Not that you're not doing a brilliant job, Coxie.
I just sit here and wait for Quirk Hour to finish.
Can you stick a super chat in for us, mate, please? Yeah, 100%. So, is he a loss? In some ways, Rupert Lowe is a loss to reform. In some ways, he isn't. Am I answering the question? Do you know what I'd like? I'd like Rupert Lowe to disband Restore, get rid of all of those that I think are extreme and that, frankly, have no place in mainstream politics, whether it be on the right or elsewhere, and maybe have some dialogue that allows him and some of his sensible supporters to come back, because reform will win the general election, right? Whenever that is, whether Burnham calls it this year, next year, whatever, reform are going to win that election. Restore are not going to help. And your point just now about that by-election yesterday, where I think it was lost by 30 votes, Restore got 30 votes, right? So as a consequence, of course, Restore potentially are going to be the entity that stops reform, taking a majority in Westminster, and that is, I think that is, what word would I use to be tactful here? I think
Russell, you can do this. Be tactful. You can do this, mate.
No, sorry, let's not be tactful. It's irresponsible. It's irresponsible to Britain for Restore to split the vote in the way that they're seeking to do, to make a point that is anti-Nigel Farage, and instead what we end up with is a Labour Green or Labour Lib Dem coalition, which, frankly, I think most people that are watching this would agree with me. Many of us that are kind of hanging on to Britain, hanging on to trying to save it from the clutches of it becoming a third world shithole, I think many of us will just give up and go, right? And then, in terms of how we restore, no pun intended, and resurrect, save our society, our culture, our economy, our borders, I mean, I think, and indeed, making sure that there's a tax base to pay for some level of public sector, spending, I think it might get to the point, and I think it will get to the point, if the general election is, let's say, 2029, and it's a Labour, Green, Lib Dem coalition, Britain's done. Britain is finished.
I agree with that.
Finished.
But I think on that basis alone, a lot of people would argue that there has to be a merge, a coalescence on the right, because they don't feel, as that by-election, it's just one standalone by-election, one standalone statistic, they don't feel that the right have coalesced around reform enough to change that. So my question would be, if that's the case, and let's just hypothetically say it is at the moment, and that what happened in that by-election is to extrapolate itself across the UK, do the right, including reform, have a responsibility to at least make some sort of pre-electoral pact?
Well, I don't think we have an obligation, as I say, because I think we're strong enough and will be in the coming months, years, whatever, up to whenever that general election is. I think we are, without doubt, powerful enough, we are authentic enough, and we believe in ourselves and the country enough to carry a general election victory. So I don't think we have an obligation. I think the obligation is entirely on the fragmented right, like Restore and others. I mean, look, let's be honest, Ben Habib has already given up on his project. I suggest that Rupert Lowe should do the same. I mean, look, Rupert Lowe, you hear all sorts of rumours, right? That Restore has run out of money. Restore, if it was being backed by some conservative, big C conservative backers, that perhaps is no more. There's rumours of fallouts and all sorts of things. I mean, you know, they're a fly in the ointment, Restore, right? And I don't think that we should allow the flies to take over the the ointment, if you like. I think the obligation is very much on Restore. But how can we do a deal when Rupert Lowe decides, instead of just texting Nigel to say, mate, I think we might have to bury the hatchet here and have a conversation, instead he hires a film crew and he decides to spend all day in a studio, effectively, putting together not just an olive branch by way of some kind of media, but decides to frame it around 5 red lines, right? And one of those red lines is not to have any of these experienced MPs that were formerly in government, those that in Jenrick's case, for instance, left government because he was so miffed with the government immigration policy of the day, to say my red line is that if we get together, given that he was a party at the time that I think had only just, I think he'd got 6% in Makerfield, he just got 8% in the Manchester mayoral election. I mean, when you've just got 8% of the vote, who the hell do you think you are telling Reform, who are the most popular party in Britain, that you've got to dump, you know, some of your most experienced members of parliament insofar as them not forming part of a cabinet in the next government? It was almost, from Lowe's perspective, I would say, almost designed to fail, wasn't it? That particular kind of agenda, right?
Yeah, it's very difficult to say whether he would do that or not. But what I would say is there were quite clearly a number of red lines in there, a number of requirements that simply were never, ever going to be agreed on. So it was almost as if he was saying, if you agree with these 3, I think we can reunite. But I need you to know for my supporters' benefit that I disagree with this also. Look, Russell, we're going to have to leave it there because I've got to move on. But this has been absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much, mate. I think we got away with it. There's no Ofcom, so it doesn't matter. Love you bits, mate. Have a good weekend.
Cheers, Paul.
Take care, mate. Well, Russell Quirk there. Should we reunite? Should we just unite the right? I don't think Russell came down on that at all, and it did split. The chat quite a bit because there are lots of people saying we need to unite, and then lots of people saying absolutely not. We need to go it alone. And I think therein lies the issue. And talking of issues, I have my presenter buddy with me. It's Lewis Schaefer. Good morning, mate.
Good to see you. Am I a buddy?
Well, yes.
I've never been called a buddy. I'm not anybody's buddy. I mean, I'm a friend.
Start.
I'm a friend, but a buddy is someone who goes out drinking with you. And I don't do that anymore because I'm worried about my weight. Who is that guy? That guy's an idiot. He's an Quirk. He's an absolute... I shouldn't say this. It's not my place to say. It's a country. We're at war. The country's at war. People should be screaming. And he's talking about left and right. No one even understands what the concept of left and right are. It isn't the left or right issue. One side is a communist, pro-Muslim country, which is what they want it to be. The other side is an anti-communist, anti-Muslim country. That's the simple thing.
Normally I would introduce our guest, but what I would say is...
Sorry.
Welcome. That is Lewis Schaefer, and that hasn't even scratched the surface.
Because I had to listen to the guy, and he's focusing...
Can I just say, by the way, you did an excellent job of listening.
Yes.
Because throughout that I was thinking, if Lewis says something, I can't stop him.
Yeah, and I was thinking maybe I should say something. I don't know what the rules are here. You're looking good, Paul.
Thank you very much. You're looking great. You always do look great. It's nice for you to say that I'm looking great too.
But this guy, Quirk, I don't know. He represents everything that's wrong with the Reform Party, which is it's a measly, minor ideology.
So what could Russell do differently? Because he is a councillor, a senior councillor in Essex for the Reform Party. He needs to support his party. What would you expect him to say?
I would expect him to say, we need to get together because this country is, whatever position he's in, I'm not even a councillor and I'm opening my mouth here. The point is, he needs to say the country is effed. And Rupert Lowe I disagree with things that he says, but the most important thing is we've got to be anti-communist, anti-Muslim.
So that means doesn't that just mean that you're agreeing that the right should unite and we should be against the...
It should, but that's not the way you unite, by saying that Rupert Lowe had a meeting with 5 points and we don't agree with these points. You just say we got to get together. I agree. We need the anti-communists, anti-Muslim party needs to have a leader who is a revolutionary. It can't be like we should be in the middle. There is no middle anymore in politics.
No, there isn't.
There isn't.
There isn't. There
And
really...
I said this 3 years ago, if
You've
you
been
remember.
saying, you've said a lot of things. That is one of the things you said. I do remember you saying that water dehydrates.
And it does dehydrate.
I remember you saying that
And
cancer
you
doesn't
can Google,
exist.
You can Google that. Cancer does exist, but the cause of cancer is different than what makes cancer grow. Cancer is metabolic breakdown, whatever, but it grows because of carbohydrates. So if you have cancer, stop eating carbs. I had a bagel and a half yesterday, and I feel horrible. I'm an embarrassment. I'm an embarrassment to myself.
That's what you think has embarrassed you?
Yes, really, really. And I'm late. I was late here because...
Yeah, but they don't know that. They do now.
They do know. I shouldn't have even said anything. I feel like I'm late.
But if you weren't this way, everyone's loving you. It's ridiculous. Everyone in the comments, look, here's Hamish McBallbag or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Lewis is just brilliant. I don't think he knows what he's talking about half the time. Brilliant.
But that's what you think. You think I don't know, but it hits a nerve. You see this guy Quirk. He seems like a lovely guy. It's like
the Quirkster. He's one of the best.
Yeah, I shouldn't be even talking about the guy. I'm an American living in this country. I'm not him. But this country needs revolutionaries, and it needs revolutionary action. You're saying that the laws shouldn't be broken. I'm not saying you should break any laws. But it's an emergency situation now, and he's trying to be all nicey.
So if it was President Lewis Schaefer of the United Kingdom, well, let's just imagine that for a minute. What would you do? What's the first thing you would do?
Well, the people have to be behind it. The president, the leader of the country, can't do anything unless he has the support of the people. And this guy is not. This guy needs to explain what the problem is. The problem is that there's a communist regime in this country. They don't call it communism, they call it socialism, call it left wing, we're left wing. The NHS.
Let's do that. Let's do this. The NHS, what's good about the NHS?
It's free, so you don't worry about your health, but then when you need it, it's not going to cure you, so it's a waste of money.
Is anyone in the NHS any good?
I saw a guy today. Yeah, I went to a guy yesterday, 2 days ago. I had my heart looked at by... 3 days by one of those things. They do a lot of things. No, he wasn't. He was a technician, but whatever. Then they were good doctors too. But the problem is they've sold a bill of goods on healthcare, which is a lie. I was coming here in the limo, or as I call it, the 36 bus, and there was a fat guy coming in with a rancid foot and the other foot chopped off.
So he was fat. 1 foot off.
1 foot off.
1 foot rancid.
And 1 foot rancid because he has, obviously, he's got hyperglycemia. He's got too much blood sugar.
So he's eating himself into
and he needs to be
hellhole.
told. He needs to be told. But you go to the NHS, you go to the hospital. I'm not going to say which hospital I go to. It's lovely. But they're all fat. The people who work there are fat.
The doctors are fat. The nurses are fat.
Not the doctors because they're of a higher class. But the nurses, which are the hoi polloi, whatever the word is.
Yeah, the hoi polloi, that would work.
Of this country are all fat. And then they're telling you you've got to have a plate of fruit. Like there's a plate of fruit here.
Yeah, just tell the people why they shouldn't eat fruit.
It's just sugar. There's nothing to it. And an apple used to be, an apple used to be like this size. Did it not?
Now it's genetically grown.
Look at it. Look at it.
They're turning the apples gay.
Yes. Well, Oh, that's Alec. Yeah. Yeah, he was right about that. He was right. They're turning it. Tell me to shut up.
Why on earth? Well, by the way, the whole production team have come into the room in a way that they would never do.
No,
and they're just here observing Lewis.
They're going to see the breakdown. Luckily, there's no Ofcom, so I'm not going to get a million complaints about this.
No, we won't. I mean, there have been some complaints about me this morning.
Already?
I made a couple of knob jokes.
Yes, I liked them.
That's not gone down too well with some of the audience.
Because you seem like a straight shooter.
Look, every now and again, I just get loose with things. It's Friday, and I'll have a meeting with HR after this. They'll tell me no more knob stuff.
Does this place have HR?
Yeah, oh yeah, it's pooch. It's absolutely pooch. Well, we've got the Duke. He He's our resident bin dipping alcoholic who the princess has fallen in love with, and what can you say? That's the love story.
Which
We've got the Duke over there. That's the guy. See the guy in the bin?
Oh, okay. How are you?
Who do you think that is? He's not. It's not
I
a hot
thought he's somebody's Pooch's kid. Isn't that Pooch's
We don't
kid?
say things like this.
You
What
don't
we
say
do is
that.
we make up nicknames and we don't allow people to identify them.
This is becoming a something. I could see this becoming a major something.
Yeah, and I think with
And
you,
I don't wish ill on GB News for firing me.
which was, by the way, an answer to a question that nobody asked.
No, they're asking, what happened with GB News? What happened? They fired me because I don't even know why they fired me. I can understand why they fired me.
Someone fat.
I called someone fat. He was fat. He was fat, and the audience says, "What? Where's the camera?
That's your camera there.
You are fat. You don't even know you're fat. If your stomach sticks out past your boobs, you're fat. You're fat." Do you want? It's like that guy. And I didn't say anything. I've lived in this country so long. My personality has been totally destroyed.
I'm not sure it has.
Yeah, I wanted to say something. You are fat, and that's why you're losing your foot, and that's why you're in a wheelchair, being pushed around by your fat wife. And
well, there you go.
Do I look fat here? Because I gained like 2 kilos, and that,
you haven't gained any weight.
I have. I did.
You haven't.
Because they gave me a sleeping pill, which was basically an antidepressant. And, because I'm anxious. I'm really worried about the country.
Is that what you're anxious about?
Yes, part of it, and the part they're turning towards anti-Semitism because I'm.
Do you think anti-Semitism is increasing in this country?
Of course it is.
And why is that, do we think?
Because it's a country of anti-Semites. That's why it's increasing.
but we're not, I'm not an anti-Semite.
Yeah.
Even the Duke isn't.
Yeah.
And
you lie to me.
Yeah, I'm not. No, I love the Jews.
Why is anti-Semitism rising? It's rising because it's a diversionary thing. I saw a flood you saw that flood 2 days ago in Nepal.
A bit more than a flood, I would say.
Yeah, it was horrible, and I thought to myself, the Jews. That's what I thought. That's what I thought. The Jews.
You think the Jews caused the mudslide in?
You want to know something? If you say it, there's going to be a lot of people going, "Oh yes, they did that. They increased global warming." And
it's either that or comedians, right?
Yeah.
On my Facebook page,
speak for yourself.
I said this week, I thanked global warming for reducing my handicap because I've been able to play a lot of golf this year. And a comedian wrote on there, "Well, Paul, I don't think the 400 plus dead in Nepal would find this funny." It's like, what are you doing, mate? What has comedy become now when quite obviously I'm being satirical and sarcastic about climate change, that a comedian can jump into the comments.
He was supporting climate change. He was saying climate change is real.
It's a problem. And the fact that I've joked about it, de facto has caused the death of 400 plus Nepalese. It hasn't, just so you know. If my jokes were that powerful, then I would aim them specifically at people. It wouldn't just be Nepal.
The point is that who provides the comedy in this country? The BBC. And the C stands for communism. It's the British Broadcasting Communism. It's it's not an open country. I don't know whether it was never an open country because you got that king guy, you got the royal family, and that's all secrecy. But this guy, the comic, I don't even know who it was. But but they want to get ahead, and so they're chosen to get ahead. They go to a comedy club and they're told, "Don't say things that you can't say," and then it starts there.
And they've all joined the massive flock. Look, I do have a guest waiting down the line. Unbelievably, please stay exactly where you are. If this guest doesn't look how you want him to, don't mention it.
Yeah.
All right.
Who is it?
It's Ed Lennox. How you doing, Ed?
Okay.
Morning.
Nobody.
You're right.
He's fat.
Nobody.
He's fat.
He's not. Look at. He's a very healthy man. Ed.
It's a very bad camera.
I'm going to
angle.
issue a blanket apologies for Lewis Schaefer.
I'm sorry.
He's a bit of a shrinking violet, isn't he?
He is a shrinking violet. I'm glad you've noticed, Jeff. You wouldn't know he was American. You wouldn't know he was Jewish. You wouldn't know that he hated everybody.
Pass me by.
Exactly. Ed, tell us all about your cause, because I'm very interested in this. This is absolutely fascinating. Tell us all about that, then we'll get stuck into it.
Well, we're the only national campaign against fly tipping and littering in the UK, and we are sinking into a cesspit of too much rubbish everywhere. And unfortunately, the instruments of government, and I use that in the widest term, are absolutely asleep at the wheel, too stupid, too lazy, too incompetent to deal with it. And earlier in the week, the government announced that, they're coming after fly tippers and they're going to increase the fines. But there is no way on God's earth that we have an approach to this that makes the punishment fit the crime, or the jeopardy that criminals should fear anywhere near strong enough, because your chances of getting caught as a fly tipper are pathetically small. And culturally, we've got a bunch of people in this country who think it's okay to dump litter wherever they feel like, and they say people will pick it up. And unfortunately, people like me and other litter pickers around the country can't bear looking at it, so they go around picking it up. But that's not the solution. The solution is to stop it being dropped in the first place, and that's complex. And most politicians can't be asked to even try, so they don't.
Now, this is a cause I can definitely get behind. Look, I live in Hampshire. I live close to rural areas, which is where all the fly tipping happens, let's face it. You've got to drive down a beautiful country lane, hedgerows, sheep, cows, beautiful vistas. And then, every 200 metres, there's somebody's sofa and a fridge. And you're like, how did that get there? Why is no one doing anything about it? The council are obviously inundated with this stuff. Adding just Andy Burnham coming out with platitudes like we're going to do more about this is no use to anybody. How? What are they going to do? Are they going to put a CCTV camera in every hedgerow?
Well, I think I have had recent experience of the full spectrum of uselessness in the world of politics and local government, because I could cite meetings that I've had in the last couple of years with a local authority in the Northern Midlands who had a problem with 2 lay-bys. 8 people attended the meeting. None of them were decision makers. They were all completely useless and hamstrung by the rules that they'd created. And they basically told us at Clean Up Britain, all of the things that you can't do because it's too dangerous, too risky, too this, too that. Computer says no, system says no, health and safety says no, legislation says no. Legislation, ironically, that's there to protect the population and make society function is now being turned back on people who want to do the right thing. And that means that they're prevented from doing the right thing, which means that criminals get away with it. Now, at the moment, we've got a situation in this country where we make it incredibly difficult and expensive to do the right thing. We don't have enough municipal tips. We've got far too many people sitting in meetings talking about it, all of whom think their own opinions are bloody marvellous. Well, I'm not interested in marvellous opinions about things. I'm interested in getting things done. That's what Clean Up Britain are interested in, something that makes a difference. If the legislation is preventing us from acting, we should get rid of the legislation or circumvent it or find a way that what we can do. So this bunch of absolutely useless public servants, use the term advisedly, in the Midlands, sat there talking nonsense for hours and hours and hours. They wanted to spend £180,000 of local taxpayers' money to clear 2 lay-bys. I'm a farmer's son. I'm a practical bloke. I know how to clear up litter. I reckoned it was about 7 to 8 days' work. It wouldn't have been pleasant because a lot of it was human shit, because we don't have enough lay-bys with toilets in for lorry drivers and delivery drivers. That's another matter. Anyway, long story short, we got a piece in the local media. A local company volunteered to come and help. The council turned a blind eye because otherwise their health and safety inspector would have had smoke coming out of their ears, even though it wasn't dangerous. We had the site cleared. So we handed back to the local authority pristine 2 lay-bys, and 18 months later, because they're all useless, and they genuinely are useless, the lay-bys are full of crap again. So we've got to do it again, and they'll probably now spend £180,000 being completely ripped off on a totally absurd contract because these people have no idea how to get stuff done for a decent rate. I'm sorry for the rant, but it's true.
No, by the way, Ed, Now, this is a rant I can get behind. The sort of rant I've had to sit through for the last 30 minutes with Lewis. It's a whole different ball game.
I'm behind him 100%.
Okay, Ed, I'm going to bring in Lewis. Prepare yourself.
Prepare yourself. But this is, I myself, Louis Schaefer, I go out once or twice a day picking up rubbish myself. I got the thing and I've got the bag. I pick it up myself. So I am with this. This is a crucial issue, but it's part of the bigger issue. It's not that the state is incompetent. They're a bunch of leftist communists who don't want to enforce the law. It's not about spending money.
Can I really disappoint you, Lewis, here?
Ed, yeah, go on, Ed.
Because it pains me enormously to say it, but it is a truth, is that across the political spectrum, those councils which tend to issue the most fines and are the most vigorous in pursuing the people who are doing wrong tend to be from the left side of the political spectrum. I wish it was different. It should be.
Just let Ed finish his point. I didn't think this would turn into question time, but
no,
Ed, please just
Lewis needs to calm down because it's true. I can prove it with data.
I go out every single day, and I pick up.
But you shouldn't have to, should you?
I shouldn't have to. What should have to happen is that they've let in too many horrible foreigners into this country.
I'm afraid we have a lot of. I'm afraid that's absolute nonsense. It's just nonsense.
You're blaming.
We've got cameras. We've got cameras all over the country, and I hate to disappoint you, Lewis, with your racialist ideas, but unfortunately, most people who litter tend to be, quite often well-heeled white people in quite expensive cars seem to be the worst of the lot. But otherwise, it's tradespeople and parcel delivery people. And generally, as per the population, the vast majority of people are Caucasian, and that is representative of the people we find. But anyway, I don't want to make it a racist issue. I don't want to make it a political issue. The fact is that the landscape in this country is we've developed a culture by systematically dismantling all of the things that help us to create a nice society. And we don't really point the people in the way of good citizenship. We don't provide a holistic education. We can allow people to get a driving license without the first idea of what the penalties are for littering from a car. And just to be really radical about it, I think that it should be literally one strike and you're out. If you're found littering from a car, you should lose your license for a good 6 months. And then you'd really think about it. And we should have much more surveillance. And you know what? I've got a really radical idea here. There was an article that I read this morning saying that some bloke had dumped 160 tyres in a place, in a street or an alley in Liverpool. And who was investigating it? It's a criminal offence, by the way, that. Who was investigating it? The local authority environmental crime unit. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but most people who want to be in the preventing crime don't join the environment team. They join the police. Why aren't we using the police to...
Exactly, that's my point. So it's not a question of incompetence. It's a question of the will of the people. Well, I was joking about what kind of... And I myself am a dirty foreigner coming into this country. So I included myself in the dirty foreigner contingent, but I'm a quality dirty foreigner. The point is that there needs to be strict punishment for this.
Yeah.
Strict.
Well,
I think Ed's been saying that. He's built he's almost built a whole movement on the back of that very thing.
Okay, well, then I'm in favor of it. That's the most important thing. Is that we need to be and people need to be exposed. If you've got cameras all over the place, we need to expose. Like I posted on Twitter, Louis Schaefer, LEWISSE, on Twitter. I posted a picture of rubbish dump just last week. in Peckham Rye Park.
Thank you. Look, right, Ed, we're gonna bring this to a close very shortly. So I want you to have the very last say on this, because what I want people to remember from this particular interview is that you came on talking absolute fabulous sense. Ed.
Yes, I'm not disagreeing with him. I'm just saying when you blame the incompetence of the government, it's deeper than that. It's the immorality of a communist socialist regime, and that includes the Tories after Churchill and Churchill.
Ed is desperately trying not to get race or politics involved in this discussion.
No, he is, but it's this, but the Tories are the exact same thing. And the whole country should be against littering.
See, this is why I've contemplated joining Hamas.
Well, I think that's been a complete education coming across Lewis. But can I just say that if you really want to help make a difference, if there's any politicians watching, any spads watching, or any people who want to really get involved and find out what's required, is please join our campaign. Go to the Clean Up Britain website, sign up for our newsletter, make a donation, find out what we think is required to make a difference here. Because I don't want to go litter picking. I don't want Lewis going litter picking. I don't want anybody going litter picking. And ideally, I don't want anybody fined for fly tipping, because it shouldn't happen in a decent society.
But if they do it, they should be kicked out of the country.
Well, I think that's far too nice. I think they should probably be put in the stocks first and pelted with cow shit and rotten tomatoes first, and then deported without having a shower. How about that?
All right.
Cheers, Lewis. Look, Ed, thank you ever so much. I will get you back on the show and I'll allow you to speak. Thanks.
It's been a joy and a delight.
Twitter. I'm going on to Twitter.
Ed, thank you very much. Enjoy your weekend. I promise I won't tell Lewis where you live.
Cheers.
Take care, mate. Take care. But we're going to go to the Glindex very shortly, and we're going to take that incredible. So you do litter pick, don't you?
Yeah, I do this every single day, once or twice a day. I go around Peckham Rye Park or my area. I don't want to say where I live.
You just did.
I just did.
I mean, that's almost exactly where you go.
That is where I go. You probably see me there. I pick up the rubbish, and a lot of it is consciously thrown out. It's not like the thing overturned, the rubbish bin overturned. They'll throw and this tissue, like in the springtime with tissues. You know, I hardly know you, and tissues, or also the bottles and cans and stuff like that. They throw them out of their cars. Maybe he's right. They should have their licenses revoked.
Well, on that note, let's play the jingle for the Glindex.
Coxie.
Hello, Glyn. Have you been, just a quick question, have you been watching for the last few minutes?
Yes, I feel like I'm watching an episode of Seinfeld.
Are you ready? I cannot stop him. You have some wonderfully planned knowledge nuggets to share. I'm going to allow you to do that. But how are you, mate?
I'm good. Enjoyed watching Ed. Completely agree with him. By the way, I once stopped a fly tipper by following him for an hour.
Did you really?
Yeah. I'd seen him fly tip right by us once before. Then I saw the lorry turn up again when I happened to be in my car. So obviously he was on the lookout. So he was driving slowly around our town, and I just followed him slowly around our town till he got really bored and went. No doubt he dumped it somewhere else, but you know.
So you managed to stop him from doing it and followed him about the Glindex Vigilante. Yeah, the Glindex Tente. Look, Glenn, what have you got for us today, mate? Because I'm really excited to hear this week. By the way, I love this just signals it's the weekend. We've got Glyn Brailsford and the Glindex. Fire away, my friend.
Okay, we've just had Ed talking about fly tipping, so you just got more rubbish from me for the next 10 minutes or something. I don't know if you saw this week, but Bill Gates, you might know him, co-founder of Microsoft.
Big fan of the show.
Yes, he warned, and a big fan of Jeffrey Epstein, but let's not go there. He warned that AI is much more dangerous than the big tech bros are letting on, which seems to me a bit like, poacher turned gamekeeper, if ever I heard it. But I wonder if AI is all it's cracked up to be. Not if my hometown of Rotherham is anything to go by. Can we take a look at image 6, please? Right. I'm calling this section A up against AI, because doctors in Rotherham have introduced a virtual assistant called Emma. That's her there on the right, which stands for Enhanced Medical Management Assistant. In short, Emma's job is to be an AI receptionist. She answers calls within 3 rings, shortens queues, and saves up to 80% on staffing costs. But there's one snag. She can't understand the South Yorkshire accent.
That is a big problem, Glyn.
Bit of a problem. So according to Health Watch Rotherham, which is an independent watchdog in the town, health watchdog in the town, she can't make out what callers are saying, which means patients can't then navigate their way through that AI system. And they just end up hanging up in frustration because can you imagine, if you're not very tech savvy, if you're old, if you're vulnerable, if you're just not feeling well, and you can't get this AI machine to understand you and put you through to the right person, which is really weird because the company behind Emma, an AI company, says she understands English and 17 other languages. So why she can't make out the South Yorkshire dialect, I have no idea. It's a bit like that cartoon of Daleks confronted by stairs. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, I do actually. This is one thing I do remember. I mean, Mark Littlewood obviously does. He could tell you exactly what day of the week and what year the episode came out, but I can't tell you that much.
But I wondered what it was about my particular dialect that AI couldn't understand. And I'll just take a couple of phrases. So A up, as we've used earlier, that's just a greeting. That's just hi. Our other greeting is now then, which is just 2 simple words, now and then. But when you think about it, that's a bit of a mind boggler, isn't it? Because I think it's probably blew Emma's fuse, because by the time you said now, it's actually then, right? So you're messing with like the time space continuum or something. So Emma's going, I can't compute this. What am I supposed to do? So AI has met its match in Rotherham. And I also don't understand, I mean, it's not that thick of an accent. I mean, what about Scousers or Geordies or Brummies? So is this going to pop up?
It's going to be a big problem, isn't it? Particularly if you've got an ailment that you urgently want sorting out, and they can't understand what it is what it is you've got. They send you off for some sort of rash cream when you've got a lump somewhere.
Well, exactly. So what Emma's succeeded in doing is definitely shorting the GP's appointments, but probably everybody's buggering off to A&E straight away. So he's just passing the problem down the road.
Yeah, big issue. What else you got in that Glindex there, mate?
Well, it's time for your Friday football fix. I'll keep this one brief this week. We looked at the economics of football for the past couple of weeks, and I quickly want to examine another couple of elements of it today. A, by looking at the current transfer window. For those who aren't football fans, I guess Lewis might be one of them. The transfer windows.
Love football.
Soccer.
He loves football. Glenn, you did command him by saying his name, unfortunately.
Sorry,
like a genie. You can't just say Lewis's name; he will appear on screen. But he does actually like football. I know that he's been to Crystal Palace quite a few times.
I'm going tonight. I'm going to tonight against Manchester City.
Great crowd
with my friend Tristan.
I love
He's got
Palace
a friend
fans,
called Tristan,
great.
apparently.
Anyway, for those who aren't close football fans, the transfer window is a limited period of time in which you can sign new players. And that window comes to an end at 11 o'clock this coming Tuesday night. Always creates great excitement for the likes of us, great disappointment depending on who you sign or don't sign, and vast amounts of money change hands. So let's take a look at image 5, please, guys.
Wow.
Yeah, that figure as we're looking at it is already out of date. More than 2.6 billion have been spent by yesterday afternoon. And there are loads of big deals coming through, like Bradley Barcola on his way to Liverpool, I think. Liverpool also interested in Sarr at Palace. We were just talking about Palace for 50 million. So I think by Tuesday, they'll have set a new record. It's currently around 3 billion. I think they're going to cruise through that by Tuesday night. But beneath all that, a lot of interesting subplots. So perhaps get to that next week. But what I also wanted to do was look at the flip side of that coin, because clubs in League One and League Two don't pay massive fees. In fact, mostly they're just picking up players on free transfers or for pitiful amounts, quite frankly. But getting deals done for those clubs can still be incredibly difficult, and not always for for football reasons. So there's a guy at Cambridge United, is their director of football, Mark Bonner. They've just gone up into League One, but he told a fans forum that they're having difficulty signing players because those players can't afford the house prices in Cambridge, right?
Wow.
So house prices in Cambridge are like, the average is 467,000. So that's 200 grand above the average UK price. Now, I would say, if you scrutinise that by that metric, my boys, Rotherham United, ought to have the best players in League One and League Two because, houses are shit cheap. But frankly, I don't think they want to live there, so they don't sign anyway, sadly. So that one hasn't worked.
Do we know what a Cambridge player's salary would be?
Yeah, well, not specifically, but I can tell you in the lower leagues, if you are a senior pro playing in League Two, you'll be on somewhere, let's call it £2,000 a week, right?
Okay.
So £8,000 a month, 96,000 a year, 100,000 a year, which is well above the national average salary, which is somewhere about 40,000, I think. But what you've got to bear in mind with these players, the lifespan of a player in the lower leagues is incredibly short. If you're in League One, I think it's something like 3 years. If you're in League Two, it's even lower, 2.9 years. And then factor onto this, all these guys are on short-term contracts, 1 season or 2 seasons at most. They don't find out if their contract's expired. They don't find out until July if they've got a job anymore. Then they have to find another club. And it's not just about finding another club. They're married guys, they've got kids, they've got wives who need work, they've got kids who need schools. So this is not a picnic for them. And the drop-off rate is massive. Even more massive is the drop-off rate of young kids who come in, play until they're 21, 22, and then don't quite make the grade and just drop out. And beyond that, the bankruptcy rate of former players is colossal. So, it's not a picnic down there. Forgive me if I just said that. Also, bear in mind, the average turnover of a League Two club is about 4 million a year, right? Which wouldn't even buy Morgan Rogers' left shin pad. Do you know what I mean?
No, exactly. Yeah.
And each of those clubs are losing about $1 million a year. And the fans complain about the chairman not putting their hands in the pocket, but the chairman is subsidising their club by about $1 million a year, just keeping them going. So
anything else in the Glindex there, my friend?
No, that's it on football. I think we'll talk about the transfer window next week, but it's not all Lamborghini's life at the bottom. That's all I'm saying.
No, it's not, and it's such a good point to make because it's like a lot of things. The things that get discussed are the 0.1 percentile at the top of everything. It's like when people talk about billionaires and the fact that they're taking everything from the country even though they're paying 40% of all tax and there's only about 6 of them left. It's ridiculous. People just hone in on them. Glenn, what have we got planned for the weekend?
You'll hate this, but I'm going to see Jack Whitehall tonight.
I don't hate that. That's good.
Oh, okay. Keep
Where
comedy alive. G Live in Guildford.
Oh,
I think he's doing one of those tours where he's like the small venues are still working on
work
his
in
material.
progress. Yeah.
Yada yada.
I've performed at G Live. It's a nice venue actually. Some nice people.
Yeah,
there.
I love it.
Yeah, so there's one of the guys that showed me to my dressing room when I was there was a big fan of independent media. You might be watching this. It was a couple of years since I've been there now, but enjoy that, Glenn.
Tonight.
Yeah,
maybe
absolutely. Yeah, you might be signing your first autograph, mate.
Yeah, I can't write though, so it'd be lost on me.
That's the trouble with.
I have to give you a keyboard. One more. It's time for Common Censor of the Week, Paul.
Common Censor of the Week. Ooh.
We've got to do that, right? I'm not sure if you saw this, Coxie, but there's a TV adaptation of Harry Potter. It's due to be released by HBO on Christmas Day. Wizard idea, you might say. But it's not without controversy. I just thought I'd stick that one. I had to do one, at least.
It was fair enough, fair enough.
So, guys, can we take a look at image 3? Yeah, I'm calling this segment Harry Potter and the Ring of Hypocrisy, right? Why is that? Because
why is that indeed?
When it was announced this week that the actor Nicholas Hoult, you'll know him, he was to appear as Gilderoy Lockhart, it prompted a backlash from his fans because they hate J.K. Rowling's views on trans issues. So rather conveniently, Nicholas then discovered a scheduling conflict, right, and had to pull out of the series, which is, pretty pathetic. I don't accept that excuse. But it's not as pathetic as at least 4 members of the cast, including John Lithgow. Remember him from Third Rock from the Sun and other kind of stuff? They've all accepted their roles. They're all taking the money, but they're all simultaneously condemning J.K. Rowling, going, her views are inexplicable, or they're expressing their solidarity with the trans, non-binary and intersex communities. Now, I've had jobs when I don't agree with my employer, but would I diss them in public? Never. Where are the standards?
No, you tend to just be grateful.
Yeah,
and gracious, which seems to have lost these people because they believe. I tell you what it is, Glyn. It's fear. They believe that if they don't say these things, they will not get other roles. They want these juicy roles. They know how popular the brand of Harry Potter is. They know it will be a success, come what may, and they know that's thanks to J.K. Rowling.
Yeah,
but they
talk
just
about
cannot bring
biting
themselves to say thank you.
Right?
Yeah, because by the way, in all of this, the brilliance is coming from Rowling. It's not coming from the actors.
Yeah.
Pretending to be something every day. I do that every day. I pretend to be happy. Every day I wake up and come on here and pretend to be happy.
And at least Rowling does know the difference between fantasy and fact, especially when it comes to a woman being a woman, I think. And her reaction was priceless and dignified. She said, I don't have the power to sack an actor from the series. I think she probably does if she really tried. And I wouldn't exercise it if I did. I don't believe in taking people's jobs or livelihoods because they hold legally protected beliefs that differ from mine. So if you can take a look at image 4, guys, which is a bit similar, but for a dignity in the face of such hypocritical ingratitude and for defense of freedom of speech at the same time, J.K. Rowling gets my nod for Common Sense of the Week. What do you reckon, Coxie?
Yeah, round of applause all round in Studio 2 here at UK Online Towers. Look, Glyn, thank you so much for joining me. I'm already looking forward to next Friday. I hope you enjoy your night out tonight with Mrs. Brailsford, or Mr. Brailsford. We're no judge here. Well clarified. Just thought I'd stick that in there. Okay, Glyn, take care of yourself,
and she's gorgeous, by the way.
She's gorgeous, okay. I don't know if I can say that now. I don't know. See, this is dodgy territory. If I start banging on about how gorgeous Mrs. Brailsford is, I don't know if that's appropriate. But I'm glad you enjoy our company.
I do. Thanks so much, Coxie. See you next week.
See you later. Take care.
Cheers,
bye.
Guys.
Well, Lewis, first of all, thank you very much for not interrupting there. You did very, very good.
Thank you very much. This is my last appearance here.
It's not. It just can't be. It won't be. It's just impossible. You can't get fired from UK Live Online.
Yes, you can. They can
well,
stop
actually,
calling.
if Mike says no more, then you can.
Yeah, there's no phone call. It can happen. It can happen. No, I'm just because everything is all political. You say I'm not going to try to be political. It's all political. It's one side versus the other side.
Who's winning?
I think here we're losing.
You mean collectively as a country, or just you and I in this room?
You and I in this room, and then collectively as a country. Communism always loses. People starve to death, and when the Muslims take over, nothing against Muslims. Nothing.
No, nothing against Muslims, but
I shouldn't even talk like that. It sounds like I don't like Muslims, but I would like to
out of 10, how much do you like Muslims?
I think I never thought about them for a minute when I was living in America. And here it's like, we're going to be able to have a Greg's sausage roll. I don't think we will be able to.
Because you think that the Muslims are going to ban Greg's?
Yes. Are you going to allow to have a dog?
You heard it here first.
It sounds like I'm being
anti-Muslim. Turning the apples gay and shutting down Greg's.
Anybody who wants to move to this country has to love this country.
Yeah.
I mean,
I agree. I do agree.
Yeah. Not want to change it. Say, listen, we'd like to be part, and then it will change eventually.
It's changing everywhere, and it's because of the capitulation. It's because we capitulate our autonomy to the state, and the state say you're going to get what you're given, and this is what we're being given.
That's socialism.
That is socialism. So, of the right-wing parties, which one is going to change The planet, the country.
It will be a new party because I think Reform is not strong enough, and I think Restore is not together enough, and I think the Conservatives are like people inherently do not trust them.
So we don't have the solution is no longer apparent to us. We don't have it available.
No, I don't know what it's going to. I don't think it's going to be. It's going to. It'll spring up. Maybe it's someone like Tommy Robinson.
Wow.
I don't know. Oh my God, I'm so unlikable.
I don't think you are. The comments.
I think I am. Because Muslims. I'm not against Muslims.
somebody PW's put Lewis. It's your worst show ever.
It is my worst. No,
now that's a callback to what you used to say on every television appearance.
Yeah, because it is. But this is the worst show because now I'm racist. The guy called me a racialist, trying to be nice.
No, he just said he didn't want to.
I know he didn't want to and that's the problem with this country.
He's dedicating his life to trying to tidy Britain up, and he knows that he needs to get everybody on board.
Yes, that is exactly right, and I need to get everybody on board loving Louis Schaefer. And you know, when you're having the worst show ever.
Look, I don't think you have. I don't think you had the worst show ever. I think you've had an absolutely tremendous show.
And you know what really bothers me? Your success.
I know it does, mate. I know it does.
You know,
it bothers a lot of people, actually.
I can imagine it does. I remember working with you. You were in nothing, and now look at you. It was Louis Schaefer was the star. I was the star, and now you're just sitting here like you're.
And I'm letting you come on. I'm letting you have some of my limelight.
I know that's the sickest thing. That's so manipulative. You know, if you were a weaker person, you wouldn't have me on. But you think whatever. Let's invite Louis Schaefer on to see how far he's fallen.
That is not what's happening. Look, I started out with nothing. I've got most of it left.
Yes.
As C6 Steve once said. Look, that's the end of the show, I'm afraid, Lewis.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say a few thank yous. Then I'm going to leave the last word to you.
What's the last word?
Well, up to you. I'll let you know in a minute. Think about it. This could be the worst broadcasting decision I've ever made.
Yeah.
But thank you to absolutely everybody who's watched, followed us, liked and subscribed this week. Keep doing it. UK Live Online is the revolution, and it's being terrorised, I was going to say that, and it's being televised. I want to say a massive thank you to Charlotte, a massive thank you to the Princess, a massive thank you to the Duke, a massive thank you to the Russian. The little one was in yesterday. She's been converted, but most of all, thank you to you. And the last word goes to Louis Schaefer.
That's like really ridiculous for me to be. You're the host of the show. And I would like to thank you for having me, and I'd like to thank Charlotte for having me, and I'd like to thank the little people. You know.
And on that bombshell, keep it real.